Hello and welcome. This is Crossing Bridges Talk Show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr. This is my co host, Will. Will, introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm William Montgomery, and it's a pleasure to be here.
All right. We've kind of changed the format a little bit, but it's all good. Today's topic is the history of hip hop. And we'll probably have some comments on that because Will has lived through that stage of life, hip hop. And I'm coming from what was it, jazz, the, the era before that, whatever it might have been. Okay. So let me run the quick video. It's a couple of minutes and to set the stage, and we'll go from there.
The complete history of hip hop. Although widely synonymous with rap music today, hip hop actually got its start as a full-on cultural movement in the 1970s. For the first few decades that the term was around, hip hop wasn't just about music, it also referred to art, style, dance, and philosophy. In this article, we cover the full history of hip hop dance and music and include a helpful hip hop history timeline for reference. Origins of hip hop. Hip hop, or hip hop, the two can be used interchangeably, began as a culture and art movement in the Bronx, where demographics were rapidly shifting in the early 1970s. During the 1950s and 60s, many white, middle-class people left the cities to move to the suburbs. The African Americans and Latino Americans that were left behind in cities, or who moved to the cities in the intervening years, encountered many challenges in their neighborhoods, as budgets were slashed and resources diverted to the wealthier, whiter communities. Faced with a lack of economic opportunity, as well as rising crime and poverty rates, the young people in the Bronx and nearby communities began creating their own kinds of cultural expressions. These forms of expression would come together to form the four pillars of hip-hop. The four main elements of hip-hop music. Most scholars agree that there are four main elements, or pillars, to hip-hop music. These pillars originated in the 1970s and continue to represent hip-hop culture today. DJing, making music using record players, turntables, and DJ mixers. Rapping, rhythmic vocal rhyming style. Graffiti painting, also known as graph or writing. Breakdancing, a form of dance that also encompasses an overall attitude and style. All four of these elements remain signifiers of hip-hop as a larger cultural movement. Hip-hop is typically broken into three phases: old school, new school, and 21st century. Old school hip-hop. Old school hip-hop typically dates from the origination of the movement in the early 1970s up until the mid-1980s. The first major hip-hop DJ was DJ Kool Herc. Mixing percussive beats with popular dance songs, Kool Herc was instrumental in developing the sounds that became synonymous with hip-hop, such as drum beats and record scratches. Influenced by Kool Herc and his peers, hip-hop DJs developed new turntable techniques, like needle dropping and scratching. Kool Herc also popularized rapping, which drew upon the traditions of West African griots, talking blues songs, and black power poetry, among others. Towards the end of the old school hip-hop era, the movement began to gain national recognition. The Sugar Hill Gang's song Rapper's Delight, released in 1979, rocketed up the national music charts, ushering in a new wave of musicians, artists, and performers, while also introducing people around the world to this new type of music. New school hip-hop. By the mid-1980s, hip-hop had firmly entered its new school era. The names that headed up hip-hop's new school are more recognizable to a contemporary audience: Run DMC, LL Cool J, the Beastie Boys, and Public Enemy. Each of these artists is responsible for making hip-hop what we know today. Run DMC brought hip-hop to a larger audience through performances on MTV. The Beastie Boys pushed DJing further with their digital sampling. LL Cool J and Public Enemy pushed rap in new directions, LL Cool J by bringing romantic themes into hip-hop and Public Enemy by using rap to push forward political ideology. Other artists that came of age during hip-hop's new school era include Queen Latifah, who, along with Salt-N-Pepa, brought women into the genre, The Fresh Prince, aka Will Smith, and MC Hammer, all of whom popularized hip-hop music even more. As hip-hop grew in popularity, it expanded beyond its regional roots, too. In 1989, NWA's Straight Outta Compton became the most prominent hip-hop album to emerge from somewhere besides New York City. The East Coast, West Coast divide evolved into a full-on rivalry between the two groups, which ended with the unsolved murders of Tupac Shakur and Notorious B.I.G. From the ashes of the rivalry between the East and West Coasts came late 1990s hip-hop, which saw artists like the Wu-Tang Clan, the Fugees, and Diddy reach new levels of popularity. Hip-hop became a worldwide phenomenon at this point, too, with new audiences and artists emerging in places like Tokyo, Cape Town, London, and Paris. By the turn of the century, hip-hop was the best-selling music genre in the United States. Hip-hop in the 21st century. The 21st century was a tough time for the music industry. The advent of streaming services affected all genres, including hip-hop. Despite the monetary effects of the shift in music delivery, hip-hop retains its prominence, influencing musicians of all genres. Over the last decade or so, hip-hop has moved further from its East and West Coast roots. New epicenters for the genre have emerged in New Orleans, Atlanta, Houston, and Detroit, as well as in other cities throughout the United States. Building off of the original four pillars that define the genre, hip-hop artists touch every part of American culture, from dance, think Beyoncé show-stopping productions, to fashion, where artists like Kanye West have launched lines, to politics. Barack Obama referenced Jay-Z several times during his 2008 campaign. While the future of the music industry remains uncertain, one thing's for sure, hip-hop is here to stay. Major moments in hip-hop history. Throughout hip-hop's history there have been major moments, from the first time a drummer used a break beat on a record to the first time a hip-hop album went platinum. Here are some of the major moments in hip-hop history. 1925 dancer Earl Tucker, also known as Snake Hips, incorporates floats and slides into his dancing, which would later inspire breakdancing. 1962 James Brown's drummer, Clayton Filial, uses the breakbeat on the record Live at the Apollo. These beats would later influence breakdancers. 1965 Muhammad Ali delivers one of the earliest rap lines before his bout against Sonny Liston. 1969 James Brown records Sex Machines and Funky Drummer. Both songs would later influence percussion in hip-hop. 1970 hip-hop first appears in the Bronx. 1973 DJ Kool Herc DJs his first block party in the Bronx. 1974 After watching DJ Kool Herc, other DJs start playing in similar styles around the Bronx. DJ Pleaser Love Bug Starsky first refers to this movement as hip-hop. 1975 DJ Grand Wizard Theodore invents the record scratch. 1976 DJ Africa Bambaataa battles Disco King Mario in the first DJ battle. 1978 The music industry first uses the term rap music, which shifts the focus in hip-hop from the DJs to the MCs. 1983 Ice-T pioneers rap on the West Coast. Michael Jackson does the moonwalk, borrowing from b-boy dance moves. 1984 The Fresh Fest concert, a hip-hop tour featuring artists like Run DMC, nets $3.5 million. Hip-hop has arrived. 1985 Salt-N-Pepa enters the scene as one of the first female rap groups. 1986 The Beastie Boys release License to Ill. 1987 Public Enemy releases Yo! Bum Rush the Show. 1988 NWA releases Straight Outta Compton. 1989 A group of friends in Manhattan forms a tribe called Quest. DOC releases No One Can Do It Better. 1991 NWA sells nearly 1 million copies of NZ for Life in its first week of release. 1992 Dr. Dre's album, The Chronic, goes multi-platinum. Wu-Tang Clan released 36 Chambers. 1995 Queen Latifah wins a Grammy Award from Best Rap Solo Performance. 1996 Jay-Z releases Reasonable Doubt. The Fugees' album, The Score, wins 2 Grammys and debuts at number 1. Tupac Shakur is fatally shot. 1997 Missy Elliott releases Supa Dupa Fly. Notorious B.I.G. is shot and killed. 1998 Lauryn Hill's solo album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, earns 11 Grammy nominations and 5 wins. 1999 Eminem sells 4 million copies of the Slim Shady LP. 2000 Dr. Dre sues Napster. 2002 Talib Kweli debuts his solo album and introduces himself as a political voice. 2003 Eminem faces controversy and opens up debate about hip-hop and racism after being caught using the N-word. Federal investigators raid the offices of Murder Incorporated. 2004 Dr. Dre gets punched in the face at the 2004 Vibe Awards ceremony. 2008 Jay-Z becomes the first rapper to headline Glastonbury, the largest greenfield music and performing arts festival in the world. 2010 Nicki Minaj releases Pink Friday, which hits number 1 on the US charts. 2018 Kanye West releases his 8th studio album, Ye, which debuts at number 1. What's next?
Okay, we are finished with that, and now we're back. Okay. So, what did you think of that article?
I think it was a good article, although they did leave out some stuff. Because
Okay.
there was Luke Skywalker from Florida. He was doing some stuff. He was actually the one that kind of started the whole. Well, I digress. But he was they did a lot of music, and there was they actually had a issue with Dr. Dre at some time in that like the East Coast West Coast kind of back and forth situation. Like everybody's trying to prove themselves, but Florida was doing their stuff. They had the quad music, and they were selling a lot of records too. Just most of the stuff back then was pretty much underground. So if you weren't from there, you wouldn't really know. But if you were from there, a lot of times they brought the music to other places and stuff. Like the first time I heard their music was I was in Arizona, and I was like, "What is this music?" But it's and then you got like Texas. There was the Ghetto Boys. They were out in the '80s. And Too Short from California. He was I remember the first time I saw him, he was in I can't remember which magazine it was, but I didn't know who he was, but he was, doing his thing for the West Coast. Yeah, and that was in the late '80s as well. So there was just a couple of artists that they kind of skipped over, but for the most part, they kept it East West. So they didn't complicate it.
Well, you have but so many words you could put out there. But anyway,
Yeah.
you want to focus on the ones who, have longevity and
Mhm.
who actually made a lot of money at it, one way or the other. I want to take a minute and talk about the impact of hip hop on society, specifically the Black community. Because it has a number of impact points. Right off the top, um, the concern with the language, the concern with some of the emphasis of the songs, kill you, beat down that, this be, that kind of a thing, baby mama drama and stuff like that there. And, the hate of this and, I'm better than you, stuff like that there. It kind of seemed like it was personal to a certain extent. I know that in this particular article, what they tried to do was gloss over that because I have another article. I'm going to talk about that in a second.
Mhm.
They want to gloss over the negativity that was coming from it, and then they, in my second article, they couched it a certain way. And you see, on the one hand, you've got what people who listen to this. Kimmy's up. She's using the word vulgar. And on the one hand, you've got the people, and then the other hand, you've got, let's just say, society
Mhm.
or the business aspect of it, and how people, try to, if it's business, it's business, if it's personal type thing, however.
Mhm.
But the impact to me was a lot of negative thinking was being put out there and bought into. It's one thing to put it out there. It's another thing when people start to buy into it. This is how you treat women. This is how
Mhm.
you treat your baby mama. This is how you treat your wife, type of a thing. And
Mhm.
so all of that thinking starts to formulate in people's heads, and they start to think, well, this is how society is, and this is what we're supposed to do, and how we're supposed to live because it's glamorous.
Mhm.
That's all they do is talk about this. And these people are going around here, these rappers are going there, they got all this bling, they got $100,000 necklace, chain or whatever. I'm driving the big car and all this. You're still living in the projects. Most of them,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they put the focus on those things that people can see and
Mhm.
hold up like, I'm doing all this, and 9 times out of 10, I mean, how are you going to have Mercedes Benz parked out in front of a rental apartment? I mean, that's just plain foolish. White people don't do that, but we have glamorized it as something that, this is the lifestyle. And let me get to the point here
Mhm.
of what the media has, come to grips with and tried to couch it as. They talked about garoots, Griot, which from Africa. These are the historians, the people in the village who kept a history.
Mm.
That was their function in the village, was to get all the information. They were like the walking newspaper. They knew what happened and kind of why it happened, so we could keep the traditions going when the new generations come along. And what the media here was saying is that these rappers are representing, the community roots
Mhm.
and keeping the reality of what society was doing to the black community, meaning racism, was there, but we didn't use the word racism, white power or something to that effect.
Mhm.
But the point was is that we were the underdogs, and treated a particular way, black people. And so these rappers are crying out to let everyone know this is what's happening in a different way. You kind of code,
Mhm.
well, I'm not talking about, killing my brother. I'm really talking about killing a white man because they doing me wrong. But you said your brother,
Mhm.
and everybody didn't get the fact that you are playing this role and using code,
Mhm.
and you meaning something else.
Mhm.
And then people starting to live like that. I want to get the bling. I want to get the big hat. I want to, that's not the point. The point is why am I living in an apartment or a room somewhere with my parents and driving the doggone Mercedes? That's plain foolish, for you and for your parents to even accept that.
Mhm.
We've got young people out there that'll spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on the outfit and have no money in their pocket.
Mhm.
When we've got folks on the other side of the fence who have thousands of dollars in their pockets and got $20 sneakers on. You see, and then you wonder why life is what it is.
Mhm.
Life is only what you put on this morning, because you spent all your money on that. You got no place to live, something go wrong, you just butt out in the street, you
Mhm.
know. So I wanted to make sure that that point was out there, is that sometimes what you're looking at isn't what you should be seeing.
Mhm.
Just because it's in front of you don't mean that it is what it is. Like in the movie, what, The Wizard of Oz, when the Oz, the big wizard is behind the curtain and the lightning and all that stuff is going on. But when you look behind that curtain, you see this little white man. You ain't got no power. You're
Mhm.
pushing buttons back here, making all this kind of stuff go on, and everybody's scared of you. But the reality is, look behind the curtain. I'll slap you. And you got no power. But this is the society that we live in, and we have to be conscious of this. We have to understand that and deal with it from that perspective. Well, this ain't real.
Mhm.
Or if it's real, it's only for the moment in time. Sometimes you just wait stuff out and say this ain't, and I'm not trying to be all over the lot, but I just want to make this final point, is that when you're dealing with police officers, you don't know what kind of nut you got standing in front of you, but they
Mhm.
got a gun,
Mhm.
and in the back of your head that no matter what you do, it's going to go their way. You could talk about, I'll call Johnny Cochran all you want. He ain't answering no phone calls
Not
right
today.
now,
Not
right?
tomorrow.
And when he did answer phone calls, he couldn't be everywhere at all the time. And so you need to deal with the reality of this. This man is telling you, well, I need to take you down to the station. Well, let's hurry up and get down there so I can see the judge and get my attorney, and we do this. But you
Mhm.
want to have an argument, you want to make your point right there in the car. How does that work out for you most of the time? It don't,
Yeah, don't.
because ain't nobody there to see it. And
Mhm.
if they are there to see it, what are they going to do? You don't know if they're going to stand up in court and testify or not. So
Mhm.
you have to be careful in what you do. But anyway, so let me stop there. And you have anything else you want to say?
Well, to your point of the vulgar language and stuff like that being
Mhm,
introduced into hip hop, that
mhm,
was pretty much uh, Luke Skywalker's situation. He's the one that a lot of people were trying to sue and try to censor, and
mhm,
he went to court with them, and he actually won.
mhm,
And therefore ushering the opening up the pathway for like people like the NWA to be able to be as explicit as they were.
mhm,
And so they pretty much paved the way. That's why I was like, when they kind of glossed over him, he was the one that
mhm,
really set the stage for rap being able to be as vocal and vulgar as
mhm,
it has been. So because
mhm,
remember they were trying to censor it. There was all
mhm,
these campaigns that were burning CDs or breaking CDs and stuff like that. It was
mhm.
them because they had a lot of graphic music where they going on,
Well,
and
it's still graphic.
well, no, they were trying to censor it, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
went to court and he won, and
Mhm,
that like set the stage where you can't censor these guys. It's freedom of speech, this, that, and the other,
mhm,
and then lo and behold, like then NWA came along, so he was out before NWA is
mhm.
what I'm saying, and doing this thing, and but thanks to them, you know, it's the way it is now. I mean, even though you got to take the good with the bad, yeah, you got freedom of speech and people saying things and pretending to be something that they aren't. Hollywood does it, the hood does it. You know,
Well, that's true. That don't make it right.
yeah, I know that's what I'm saying.
We know that Hollywood, they're doing something what they call for entertainment, really to make money. So it
Hmm.
don't matter if it's entertaining or not, as long as you paying to watch it,
Hmm.
it works for me. But again, and we've talked about the media and its impact on society, that you keep putting this out there, even though you know it's wrong, people start to come around and think it's true
Oh yeah,
and they
definitely.
think it's right. And if you sit back now and look at this stuff across the years, you see how entertainment has changed, you know, and not necessarily for the better.
Hmm.
But that's what we have to deal with. And the thing is that we should understand we need to deal with that and understand what we're dealing with. I can't stop it from raining because I'm getting wet, but since it's got to rain, get a daggone umbrella,
Hmm. Yep.
and you don't have that problem. But anyway, so I think we have had a good conversation on this. Unless there's any last points you want to make before we start to close.
No, I mean, like it's very informative, and like there were some points in there that was new to me.
Mm,
But
mm,
definitely informative. And people should, if they love hip hop, they should know the history behind it and the effects and stuff that that go with it. And the more people know, the more people understand, the better that they can make better choices and be stronger, better people.
hmm Okay. So now is your um, time for you to make your announcement and invite
Okay.
people.
To our viewers, we like to extend the opportunity to send us any topics that you would like us to discuss, or if you would like to be a panelist on the show, please send us a comment in the comment section, and we'll see what we can do about getting that topic spoken about, or get you on as a panelist.
Okay. And I want to thank you, Will, for being with me.
Thank you.
And those of you who took the time out to listen to our conversation here. Thank you. And we will see you again next week, God willing, and the creek don't rise.
And the creek don't rise.
Amen.
Amen. Love you.
Bye-bye.